Good evening and welcome to week 13. In this week, I would like to present you the work of two authors. One is an anthropologist, Aryunappa Durai, and the other one is a political philosopher, Sheila Ben-Habib. Actually, Aryunappa Durai is originally Indian, but he has been active, I would say, for these past 20 or 25 years in the American academic world. As I said, he's an anthropologist. But his work is considered to be a very important basis also for a lot of philosophical and political reflections. And today I would like to introduce chapter 2 of his very important book, Global Flows. This book is telling us something about globalization from, I would say, a very interesting point of departure. As you will see in the very first pages of the chapter that I've indicated as our reading, disjuncture and difference in the global cultural economy. Allora, here the point of departure of Aryunappa Durai is essentially this one. We cannot conceive of globalization simply in terms of westernization or Americanization. That means the fact that we are living in a more and more interdependent world does not mean that simply we are all becoming more Western. Even more simply, it doesn't mean that we are all becoming more Americans. As a matter of fact, you will see that here in this page, there is an affirmation that is very important. The crucial point, however, is that the United States is no longer the puppeteer of a world system of images. What does it mean? It means that, the way the people think is influenced by globalization, evidently. So what does it mean that I'm thinking as an Italian? It doesn't mean that I'm thinking only with images, themes, symbols that come only in the portion of land which is between the Alps and Sicily. No. It means that somehow in my head I have a lot of, themes, images, ideas that also come from other parts of the world. But what is important is to read these flows that, somehow end up in people's head, not solely as flows from west to the rest of the world, but, as a kind of both ways flows. And here it says, one node of a complex transnational construction of imaginary landscapes. What does it mean? It means that, what you have in your head influences the way that you behave, which means that also influences the way that you are. When I was thinking how I was going to present to you this very important chapter, I thought I shall begin by telling you for a few seconds my impressions about a series that I watched on Netflix, just a little bit, not spending all my days on Netflix, you know it. But in these long evenings of quarantine, on Netflix there is a fantastic series that is called Unorthodox. And it has to do about a group of Jews originally from Hungary, ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Jews that live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York, USA. And you will see that these people are physically, geographically in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York, USA, but mentally they are somewhere else. They are somewhere in Hungary and somewhere in another time that somehow is not the 21st century. Well, this is a very good example of the point that Appa Durai wants to make when he affirms the world we live in today is characterized by a new role for imagination in social life. To grasp this new role, we need to bring together the old idea of images, especially mechanically produced images, the idea of imagined community, and the idea of imaginary. What does it mean? It means that we have to bring together the fact that we have, what does it mean, mechanically constructed images? Well, it means that we have a series of cultural products, movies, music, TV, websites, that somehow create the way that we see the world. And also, what does it mean, imagine community? It means the communities that we imagine as our reference. Doesn't necessarily mean that those communities actually really exist. For example, if you watch Unorthodox, you will see that these persons in Williamsburg imagine a Jewish world that exists to a certain extent only in their heads. And last but not least, the imaginaire in the French sense. What does it mean? It means, the landscape of collective aspiration. And what does it mean? It means how people imagine what they should be. If you take all those things all together, this is why Appadurai uses the term landscape, because it's like, when you look out of the window and you see a landscape, the place where you are. So, as you can see, Appadurai means to tell us that we see the place that we are being influenced by landscape that we have inside ourselves. And this is point number one. Point number two is that this landscape not necessarily corresponds with our geographic location. Why? Because we live in a globalized world with a global economy, and this global economy is tossing and turning us all over the world, which means that may bring us to live somewhere else, but it may also bring us to live in bubbles of production that not necessarily are limited to our geographic location. What do I mean to say by this? Look at me. Here I am, locked up in my house in Fiesole, but I'm talking to a group of American students in English, okay, in the framework of the American study abroad enterprise. So, as you can see, this is why we live in a globalized world, all right? So, what Appadurai wants to do, he wants to map this kind of landscape that people have in their heads. And in order to do so, Appadurai comes up with some elementary framework. And here I would like to follow this through his own words. Essentially, Appadurai proposes that we should look at 5 dimensions of global cultural flows. The underlying points and the reason why this reading is important for our class is that, this mental landscape influence identity. Allora, these 5 dimensions of global cultural flows can be termed as ethnoscape, mediascape, technoscape, financescape, ideoscape. And the fact that all of them end up with this word scape, as you read there, Appadurai affirms, allows us to point to the fluid, irregular shapes of this landscape. Scapes, shapes that characterize international capital as deeply as they do international clothing style. What does it mean? It means that, they characterize this condition, that is, our condition that we live as part of an international economy. And also, the suffix scape indicates that there are not objective given relations that look the same from each angle of vision, but rather that they are somehow personal constructs. What does it mean? It means that somehow every individual or collective actor, person or group may have a different combination of those mental landscapes. So you may work, let's say, with one technoscape, but at the same time having in your mind another ethnoscape. All right? So it is also very important to be aware that those different scapes may have different combination. And also it is very important to see what Appadurai affirms there. They are part of imagined worlds. And also an important fact of the world we live in today is that many persons on the globe live in such imagined worlds and are thus able to contest and sometimes subverts the imagined world of the official minds that surround them. What does it mean? Again, let's look at the case of unorthodox. This community of ultra-fundamentalist Hasidic Jews, because of their mental landscape, may subvert completely the dominant landscape of the country, America, where they are. So somehow they, let me be honest, they don't give a damn how America lives or the American laws or the American economy. They function in a different way. All right, now in order to look a little bit more in detail at the meaning of these 5 scapes, you have to wait a second so that I can move to the next presentation. I'll be back.